day. Hi, Auntie or Uncle. Usually it's my auntie. Much love to you. It's Wandering Wednesdays again. And just catching up on what I've been wondering about and wandering into in my studies. And it's really cool. This week I was looking at this thing called the Analemma. And it's shaped like a figure 8. Go figure, right? When I was little, there was this thing we used to look at called Schoolhouse Rock. And one of them was figure 8. It was this little... Here we go. Let's do the Schoolhouse Rock thing for a moment.
Figure 8, that's a circle that turns round upon itself. 1 times 8 is 2 times 4. 4 times 4 is 2 times 8. If you skate upon thin ice, you'd be wise if you thought twice before you made another single. 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. And 5 times 8 is 40.
Okay, so basically you get the drift of that. Used to watch that all the time and we loved it. Schoolhouse Rock has a lot of those different songs and stuff like that. Okay, so the reason why I was thinking of that is because of the figure 8 and this thing called the Analemma. What is an Analemma? Well, give me a moment. Analemma. Okay, what I was looking at is a scale drawn across the toroidal zone on a terrestrial globe by which the declination of the sun may be ascertained for every day of the year. Okay, and the first one, a sundial showed the latitude and the meridian of a place. There's something else I was looking at too. Okay, so that anyway, that's an Analemma. And bear with, this is the whole basis of this conversation. Check this out really quick. This is an Analemma. It's showing the different points in the sky every day. It's like a clock. And if it was to leave a ghost, right, a signature of where it has been, the sun, and leave a trace in the sky, it would leave a figure 8 configure, like that song. Now we know with occult symbolism, the 44, and so that just, I was wondering about that as I was wandering into what is the deeper meaning of the Analemma. Now I use this shape when I'm making toroidal fields, which is the whole reason why I'm basing this conversation on this. So I would like you to know what it is. What is this thing, this figure 8 symbol I'm speaking about that's in the sky? It's part of the Earth grid. And so if you track it like they're showing here, you can see the dates of it leaving traces in the sky, like if you were to take a picture of where it was, where it landed at the same particular time of the year. You see that in between those spaces. So that's fascinating, right? I'm like, how can this thing keep leaving the shape in the sky? Doesn't that remind you of a blimp, the New Year blimp? And every year is just interesting that every year it's leaving a trace of where the sun was. And then you can take that shape and flip it horizontally. Is also interesting. Like a big giant loop floating through the sky. But you can't see that unless you've traced it and you did the time lapses like these really cool researchers have done, who are also interested in the Analemma. Okay, so I thought, I'm studying this symbol and I use this shape when I dance, and how fascinating that is. Now, I came across this information. Now we were looking at, is the globe flat or is the globe round, right? There's a lot of people aggravated with each other about the whole topic, right? But what I'm concerned about most is why all the agitation to begin with about the topic? Like, why not just allow the topic to be explored, right? Why was the science of these things that I'm about to speak of hidden, like buried, if it had no merit on our progress in society, on power, right? If it had no merit or difference on the movement of the way the power structure is, then why was it messed with at all? You know, why was it deterred if it didn't make a difference on the psyche? So that's something that could be explored. This shape is like a projector, right? It's like a holograph. Now, when I dance and I was going to do this earlier and going to do it outside. When I dance, you have this shape, okay, that I'm doing. Now this movement right here is I'm making a figure 8 with my hips, which can be kind of aggravating if I haven't done my yoga and stretched and stuff. Like, try doing that 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and I haven't stretched. I can find that myself getting stuck, you know, on one side now. And I was thinking about, don't laugh at me either. So I'm looking at the way this shape is moving across the sky. Mind you, we know that the earth is a depiction, can be depicted as a person, right? We even see that shown in the tree of life, and we see that shown in the chakra system. We see that shown in the body clock and in human design. We see it shown that the earth grid is definitely a copy, or can be modeled after the body, even in these things that I named, like the time zones and stuff, when it comes to the body clock. Okay? So when it comes to movement, you know, doing the therapeutic dance, when it comes to movement, it made me think of what could be stuck. Is something stuck? You know, it made me think of the earth tilt. And it made me think of the holographic projection. Okay? So keeping those things in my mind that I was wondering about as I was wandering through this information. Now with the Analemma, the shape is smaller. This figure 8 symbol is smaller on one side than on the other. So it's like a bigger loop on one side, just like an 8. Okay? And smaller on the top. I was thinking of the spin toys. When I was thinking of myself, I was thinking of how I spin my stick. And there are certain ways that I move it that make that exact same figure 8 symbol. You know what I'm saying? And don't forget about the sound wave, how even frequency and vibration is attached to the body. Even what I'm playing right now, 432 hertz. Okay? Now, what am I getting at? When it comes to spin and the earth, that predominantly right-hand people, what, are left brain thinkers? Is that like you're working with the opposite side of your body? That if we're predominantly right-handed here, but if you go across the world, they're predominantly left-handed and right-brained thinking, you know? So I was looking at how the actual world itself, knowing what I know now, that it's made up of our consciousness as a collective, what we've chosen, whether knowing or unknowingly over a period of time, builds our reality. So you have these interesting pieces of information, right, from these different parts of the world, right? That's interesting, right? And it reminds me of the Pinocchio, where they have mind you, the cross is one of our symbols. You know, how you know, this side is running this side, but on that side of the world, you know, and they're even driving on a different side of the street, okay? Now, what is she getting at? Bear with me. I was looking at flight patterns. I don't even know if I'm going to show you that. That whole video. I probably won't, but I'll put it in the description. Flight paths. Flight paths explain a lot. It turns out from this video I was watching, that they can't even calculate the distances between place and get their maps correct without using a flat map. Isn't that interesting? Because what I was doing was thinking, okay, well, if this thing is a holographic symbol, right? Or I was remembering the spiral scope toy that I had when I was little. You know, you put it on a piece of paper and you put this thing in it and you just spin it in circles, and what it does is it makes those really pretty patterns like mandalas. And you can, you know, they had it where you could use the different colors and stuff, and that's something that you could play with. Yeah, so it reminds me of a blimp. It reminded me of the spiral toy. And then, when we're talking about frequency and vibration, looking at this Analemma symbol, I was thinking again of spin and the chesahedron. This shape keeps coming up again. But when I was thinking of this shape, I was looking at the tree of life. If I look at the outline of the tree of life, if I'm seeing similarities between the chesahedron pattern and the tree of life pattern. Also in the isododecahedron, which has the dodecahedron inside of it, like a giant crystal formation. And the shape is still the shape. To me, it reminds me very much of the shape of the tree of life. Now, why I'm bringing up this shape again is when this shape is spinned, in the same way I'm spinning this stick, and the same way I was thinking of how we spin our hips, when you do a therapeutic dance, even African dance or belly dancing, which is very good for women, to move energies and things like that inside you, extremely therapeutic. I was thinking of the earth as the earth mother, and the way that this depiction of where the sun was, where this the sign of the nurturing being was in the sky, being in the shape of that figure 8, right? And then looking at how we are broken down into frequencies, and those frequencies can be broken down into the tree of life, and that can be decoded into the actual map, right? And that's when you get into people fussing about whether the earth is a circle or a square. Mind you, if you do the research and the more ancient history, Santos Bonacci has a video where he was, and I will remember to drop that in there this time, where he's talking about mid-earth and the wow, these videos, they're longer than what you would want maybe to choose to spend your time looking at this particular moment. But I'm naming them, and I'm going to drop them in there, so go by and look at them, and you'll be able to get a deeper understanding of what I'm actually getting at. It turns out, and I'm going to have to do this video with Santos Bonacci, just a piece of it. You never find anything when you're looking for it again. Ah, here we are. I'm hoping I can get
down, because this is a mountain. Mercator called it the Bhupesh Mudra, was a 33-mile-wide black magnetic stone. So, what's also curious about this drawing is that there's an ice wall around it. Now, first when I looked at this, I thought, oh, well, this is...
I want you to be able to see what this video is, so I'm putting it in here.
Now it makes more sense that it's actually 17 miles wide of an icy mountain, which goes all around Eden.
Ancient history, flat earth map.
So what are your thoughts, Santos?
Yeah, I saw the vid and I thought it was really good. It's certainly good evidence, the ancient maps that show those 4 islands, and how it was then consequently removed at a certain period. I think that was about 300 years ago. Is that right?
Right. In the late 1600s, what they tell us is the late 1600s, basically removed. And we've shown that of the time they did a sort of horrible Photoshop where they took parts of Canada, Russia, and Greenland and just removed them. And what we were talking about in our last talk, Santos, is you were providing lots of information how that time period, the late 1600s.
Before I forget, check out this book called Behold the White Horse with this guy, I think his name was Admiral Burke, where he took a plane and flew into the poles and said that there was a whole world there. And this is the portion of the world that they're, if you're hearing any of this new discoveries where they're even taking some of the stars and stuff down there and looking around and whatever. It turns out from other information where I've looked at, this is just side note stuff, that they already years ago took that stuff out of there, and that's what Admiral Burke and stuff like that knew. They went down there and whitewashed it, cleaned up a lot of stuff, and now bringing people back as if it's this giant new discovery. That's like bringing people into Area 51 in today's age.
Is really when the globe deception started to ramp up.
Yeah, because what they've done is they've
just like the unabridged dictionaries are being removed
before the science of transcendence or supernatural or metaphysical or what you would say spiritual science. Okay, so they put material effect science, pseudoscience, scientism before the law of God. The law of God is truth and science, not falsity and pseudoscience. So we've turned our back on God by accepting theories of men. Look at all of them.
Okay. This is just a part of the deferment, whereas we become so trusting in the system and in the way that our system teaches us that we have, it's out of the social norm for you to trust or look at anything else, any alternative information. And the cattle prod is their social sanctions, and even how it feels inside. There's an alchemy to this, allowing and not allowing, and what our intention is to what we are allowing and not allowing, as well as why things are being taught to us and not being taught to us. This is all an alchemy in the way that we're perceiving things. As what I know to be true is not what you know to be true, and that's an alchemy. You've literally got to get me on the same page as you for us to get that frequency and vibration right. And that's why looking at the balance of consciousness, even if you were to just look at right hemispheric and left hemispheric sync of the brain with the right hand, left brain thinking, and the way that that's switched around the globe, even to the point where we're driving on a different side of the street. Okay? All the while, this Analemma shape is a worldwide symbol, this figure 8. like a giant blimp in the sky. And it's a holographic image of what? If there's a 0.0 to this shape, obviously, for them to be able to track it, right? Now, the brain being a map of the planet and things being duplicates. Side note, the Anunnaki bloodline, looking at the pictures of on the Egyptian walls, what is it, Sumerians, or I don't know, different beings, and they have little pointy cone heads. It's even said in the Kemet and Egyptian theology history that they used to like to bind their heads so that they would turn out to be shaped like a cone. They would do that for children when they were little, just like in the Asian culture, they have this thing with the feet, and they would bind up the women's feet. It turns out that they recently outlawed it, but I'm not sure about that part, if they outlawed it everywhere or not. But anyway, they used to squeeze the head to where it made this cone shape. And seeing how we can't escape the essence. It's repetitive. The essence of the creator is just there. And in the same way that looking at the shapes of the hidden continent, Mount Meru, and, you know, going through magnetism, and how just, even when it comes to the theology and the dogmas, that things are repetitive. The Christ consciousness is repetitive. Whether we want to talk about it in a scientific way, regarding alchemy, regarding spirituality and behavior, or using the Bible or the Quran or some other book as a historical or a spiritual map of what someone's intention should be, like a guidebook or something, to what they want to draw to them, you know, a book of magnetism to invite or invoke certain spiritual laws and principles to come into your life, you know. It's ringing a bell, the things that we learn and that are indoctrinated into our... I'm very happy to have my family here with me. I just want to let you guys know that. You know, I just be staying focused, but I see all of you here, and I am very grateful. Much love to you and yours. Okay, so we're like a bell. Now look at this shape. Look at the way that we move in and out of things, the way that things are not so one-dimensional, that we can allow ourselves to be more expansive with certain thoughts. Okay, I was equating the tetrahedron shape to the way the tree of life looks, and that if you were to use just the outline, right, you would be able to see this. Now, I brought it up myself and did the research. You can too. I'm not going to put those in here right now, but you know, sometimes I do the videos and I stick them in there, you know. But it's really easy. Just go there and look at the tetrahedron shape on Google Images, and you'll be able to see the outlines on some of them. Look up the tree of life and look at the similarities, okay? Listen to what I'm saying and how okay, it's a programming. The social indoctrination, I'm not saying is a bad thing entirely. What I'm saying is that it was counterproductive when we're not all on the same page and don't know what's going on, and that invites other people who don't have our best interest in mind to run off with the kitty, you know, to distort things and to pull the wool over our eyes, and we end up being what we didn't want to be, which is, instead of good citizens, helpers, or whatever, you know, just mind your own business, we end up as sheep, you know. So remember that part of the technology is just to not inform. Don't tell people. Tell people in a way that they're still not informed, because you're informing the unconscious part of their mind and not being in the forefront and letting them know upright. Why? Because we're programmed to think that certain information is aversive. That program is very important. I wish I had my bell right now, because I would just ding, ding. That bell is used in behavioral modification. I know this because I studied behavioral modification. You can know this too by looking up behavioral modification. Slock-offs, dogs, it's part of conditioning. It's part of a reward system, So looking at the shape and those different dimensions, the tetrahedron, when it's spun, is shaped like a bell. And remember that we're over 70% water, okay? Water is programmable. Dr. Moto's research. Check out Dr. Moto. He froze water crystals, put them in the freezer. If you speak negative words to them, they'll come out looking like a cancerous, murky orb residue within the water molecule that you've frozen. And if you speak things like, much love to you and yours, and I love you and I wish you well, and I'm glad you're here, and I appreciate you, the water crystals do something else. Remember I was saying how it's kind of like starting off with in the mentality, this bell ringing, this program thing. In school, you start off with an A, and all you got to do is to keep it. And, depending on your frame of mind, you feel pretty good about that, right? All I got to do is keep this A, and if there are things that you know that you're capable of, you're all right with that. You feel really good, right? You're capable of keeping this A. But if you're told that you're messed up and you got to work really hard, triple hard to get an A, that's a whole different mentality. And ding, ding, there's other things reinforcing that, whether it's the media, other mediums, other people channeling that through us, through social, cultural messages that we're feeding ourselves, this counterproductive message. And it does affect us. Okay? Now, that leads me to the symbol of the pentagram. We can look at it as a cube, because if you take a pentagram and you change the shape, it's actually a cube. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too, right? Nifty. And the same way that I'm eyeballing this tetrahedron shape and the tree of life shape and looking at it and starting to move these shapes around, in the same way that I showed you the figure 8 and the Analemma, and even the little tune that we used to listen to when I was a wee girl, right? And how these things are programs in our society. It's even called schoolhouse rock. Ding. Things that were reinforced into us. But when you see shows like MacGyver, where you intuitively you get to change the dimensions of your mind and think, okay, well, the teapot or the coffee pot can also be, is also the teapot. Okay, it also can boil an egg and warm soup. All right, and hold some water and be a distiller if you rig it right. You can naga rig a coffee pot and it can be a water distiller. Or you can MacGyver it, however you want to look at it, right? You can get shifty, move things around, like our English language, moving backwards and forwards. It has to do with intent and mentality. These are the things that are being, the ingredients being shook. What's in there? Like, in the same way, If you have a tube and then the tube is crap, if you squeeze the tube, you're only going to get crap out of it. But if you have a tube and inside the tube is flowers and sunshine and smiles and giggles and, you know, lovely stuff like that, if you squeeze this tube, oh my gosh, it's going to be an orgasmic fantasia of fun. Yeah? Because that's what was in the tube. And I'm realizing that we're programmed to want certain tubes that ain't good for us. In the same way that we're programmed to eat a lot of meat that's dead food. I'm not saying that eating meat, I'm not even going there and saying eating meat is terribly bad. Okay, and the karmic consequences and all that stuff. I'm not even going there. I'm just saying that more living foods help the body's healing process. That alone, you know, like I noticed because of the way that I was programmed with certain foods and stuff that I grew up with, I'm more inclined to want the baked macaroni and cheese. Oh my gosh, just thinking of it now, it's like the doggy theory, you know, my mouth. My mom used to make some banging baked macaroni and cheese. Okay, so we got that pentagram, right? The things in our minds, we pin ourselves with our behavior, with our mentalities, with our intentions, okay? Following along behind things that are programmed. So there's a borderline there between the things that we don't know and our own things that we bring to the table that we want, our own desires and stuff, clashing with the things that we programmed into us. And then in this day and age, we're waking up and realizing the difference between the two. And we're like, oh my gosh, I got all this shiny-ish to watch out for. You know, and I'm surrounded by it. And so what do I do? How do I do it? And I found that the most important thing is to work on self. I can't identify anything in you if I can't see it in myself first. Bottom line. I'm just regurgitating more stuff that I've heard. Not something that I know. And I haven't cleaned out all the stuff that I've been programmed with to make room for the creator that lives in us, that we want to share with each other, that you know, as above, so below, as within, so without. Okay, we want to get to the place where we can share the Christ consciousness. We want to share the gifts that the creator gave us. We want to share the things that we deem are mutually beneficial, are therapeutic, are beneficial, are life-giving, resourceful, all that good stuff that we be running around trying to get. You know, even when it comes to a mate, you're not trying to get the gunk at the bottom of your shoe. You're trying to get something that makes you feel good, resourceful, abundant, safe, secure, comfortable, right? And the same way that everything that we this pentagram, okay? Turn it inside out. It's a cube. I didn't say it's square. I said a cube. You need the other, you know, you need the other dimensions of the shape inside of it. And the same way I said the outline when you're looking at the tree of life and the chesahedron, okay? Now, the pentagram, okay? Don't be scary. Okay, fire, air, water, ether, okay, and earth. That's what we're made of. Okay, and people who know this, we're actually crystals, atoms, protons, and neutrons. You can grow crystals. I was watching a show of, was it the government? They were growing crystals. It was an old, really old documentary of them growing crystals in a jar. It was pretty cool. They were talking about how, you know, what the crystals could be used for and the quality of crystals and how you could grow crystals yourself by using, you know, certain materials. And that's what we are. We're 70% water. We're light. What? The inner light. right? Where Earth, we breathe air. Air, you know, is what the air is. What? How it's like. What helps the blood? If you're not breathing, is that blood going to be flowing through the body? No. This whole thing is a machine. It's a living, breathing, organic crystal. That's just science. That part is science, and it's beautiful, and it's true. Now, looking at, I have something in my eye. Looking at the different symbols that we are, and how, again, like we're copies, smaller copies of a greater thing. And thinking of this Analemma, you know, like a snowman, like a a stacked, two orbs stacked, you know. The brain being a map, back to the cone heads, you know, and the shape, and looking at the physical, the metaphorical, and the breakdown of the different parts. If you were to talk about, excuse me, the eye, or the third eye even, right? The fact that within this egg-shaped dome that they were trying to get, right? When they were trying to get their heads to be pointy, and that was giving honor to the ancient bloodline that was in the DNA at the time. During the time of these maps, you know, people trying to get their head to be shaped like an egg, right? Within this womb space, this egg, this space that we live in, Earth, and this Analemma being shaped smaller on one side and bigger on the other, just making these equations, right? And our head, looking at the different dimensions, remember, like Russian dolls, we repeat things, whether consciously or unconsciously, and what's in the tube is what's in the tube. Within our brain, they say, is another eye, right? Behind these eyes is another eye, and within that eye, you know, is our third eye, you know. So we're looking at the embedding, okay? We're looking at fractality, and fractality is life. We're looking at the embedded information that our ancestors gave to us. And that's what we're paying attention to when we start to look at life, the life around us. This is my little note I did on the Puppet Master thing. When you look at the globe, you know, there's the symbol. Okay. I could show you guys stick figures all day. Oh. Okay, so you realize what I'm getting at. Now, embedding is called three-wave mixing. It's also called implosion, you know. It's also the same thing that leads to the scalar wave, the healing waves. It's also the same thing that conceptualizes an idea. Now, before we lose the light altogether, I was looking at this globus, right? And I found it really cool how now the aviators, that's what I need to get to. Aviators, that's where we're going now. This really cool video that I would drop in there on flight paths explained. I think this will explain a lot more of what I'm getting at with the Analemma, and whether the world is a globe or whether it's flat, whether that matters at all on our consciousness. What I'm getting at is the centerpiece, regardless of what you think it is, flat or globed. I'm getting at that Mount Meru.
Number 3. The commercial air travel routes for the southern hemisphere are wrong. This is an easy thing you can check out in 60 seconds. Take a map reading of the distance between anywhere near Australia and anywhere in South America. It's a straight shot across the South Pacific. Now find your favorite travel site and try to get there non-stop. See what happens. The routes start turning ridiculous. I used to business travel for years, and I've never seen anything like it. It's the one thing in the general public world they can't hide, the actual distance between these two places. On a round world, the flight is easy, just a straight shot across an ocean. But on a flat world, it becomes the greatest distance between 2 points. There are no shortcuts, so they distract you with multiple connections and layovers. It's only blind luck that the United States was in the northern hemisphere. Otherwise, the increased
Here we go with our map again. Tree of Life. Good day, love. Don't worry, I'm going to drop this video in there so you can watch it more appropriately. But it's really vital to what I'm speaking of when it comes to the technology, mentality, and just observation. You see that center point? Why do we have to have that center point? Okay, I'm going to fast forward. They're just showing you how anyone can.
Flat Earth clues.
Anyone can join the school if you have the mentality and the money and the time, and it's available. You can do it. Okay, so basically, please check out that video. You could see it in the description already what the name of it is, and check it out on YouTube. Okay, so what am I getting at? Well, I thought it was quite interesting when we look at these words again. about how globe, a small golden ball used as a symbol of authority. What? A small golden ball used as a symbol of authority. And we have a blue orb, right? Globus, a ball, sphere, any round ball-shaped thing, specifically. Spherical, globe-shaped, involving the earth as a whole, worldwide, global warfare. The maps used to be flat, and they actually killed people off for even believing such things, and made it round, and had a whole system and dogma in order to program a society to suit whatever it is that those who govern society, who plan hundreds of years ahead of time, thought were worthy. So while you were sleeping, while you were still trying to figure out the latest jingle that was programmed into your culture, they were programming some other stuff. Now, map is drawing or other a drawing or other representation of the surface of the earth or of any part of it, drawn on paper, or a mathematical exhibition of the lines of latitude and longitude, and the positions of the countries and stuff like that. If you look at that video about latitude and longitude, about the flight patterns, they'll tell you that the only way to calculate, that it's a known fact that the only way to truly calculate the proper measurements is by using a flat map. Thought that was really interesting when it comes to the essence and stuff, right? And then you turn around and turn it, literally turn it, flip it, in the same way that we flip words. I thought that was fascinating, don't you? Terrestrial. Okay, yeah. Terrestrial means earth. Yeah, it means the earth. Okay? The state or quality of being. Terrestrial. Terrestrified. I looked up. To reduce to earth, or to be an earthly or mundane state. As above and so below. Did you know that many of the forms of life, their original shapes can be traced back to the ocean? And if I was studying this with Seven Bomer, that part. And so if you take those different mollusks and different life forms and stuff that we get from out of the ocean, and like a rainbow, they materialize in some form or another on the planet, and a depiction of plant life and stuff like that. The flowers, the fruits, the vegetables, the trees, and things like that can all be copied and traced back to the origins of the ocean. Okay? And the origins of the ocean come from from up there. Okay? That stuff on Saturn's rings, that it falls. What goes up must come down, right? Gravity, or pulled into the atmosphere and fall into the ocean. And we ingest those things, and it's all about genetics and biology. And we come out a different, you have to add in the date of birth and stuff like that, but we come out these designs, I want to say, because I'm looking for the perfect word and I can't find it. We come out with these different dynamics of it, okay? And it all falls from the earth, from the astral. So they say as above, so below. And it's like snowflakes where, for instance, right? Snowflakes, it's all made of H2O, and each one comes down different, right? That example, it's all water, and we're talking about different forms of life, right? All right, well, it's not such a bad example if you imagine that water is the foundation and the basis for making other alchemic processes, right? What can you do without water? Or what can you do without, back to that phi symbol, what can you make without those particular things? And so if you look at one dimension being the foundation of other dimensions and the source or life energy coming from Earth, this womb space, there we go with the fractal stuff again. Meaning within meaning within meaning within meaning. You can take that tube, right? And if you want to start some crap, then use the one that had crap in it. You know what I'm saying? Get your paintbrush and go for it. But supposing you want something else, right? Then you would want the one that had that sweet smelling aroma and the flowers and stuff like that in it. And that's the one that I want. Except for when I'm in a crap fight. You might have to grab the other tube momentarily, you know. You never know. Okay? Remember that we are carbon and proteins and atoms. We're water. We're crystal beings. We're living energy. Okay? Layered. You can tap into your ancestral memory in the same way that you can get a download from the sun, or ask your ancestors to help you, or ask the Creator to intercede for you in your behalf. These are all energies and waves and things that we allow ourselves to contemplate and give permissions for. Now this figure 8 symbol has a toroidal zone, which happens to be a part of our torso. That's my little doodle man. That's your torso right there. Remember the little hip movement I did? The little spiral thing? Just take them and flip them over like that. Huh? If the earth was a person, and that's you, and you did... Yeah, I was wondering about that, huh? What? What's going on here? It's a hula hoop. But there's a point. It's not so simple. There's a point where the energy disappears. I'm thinking infinitum and infinite. Finite. That's the part that they can't track. Okay? It disappears and it does its own thing. That's the spark, the life force spark energy. The finite. Finito. Just one poof. Okay? Now, in this torso, we have the higher mind and the lower mind, right? We have our lower selves and our higher selves, so we call it. But we need both parts. You know, there would be no life if you weren't attracted to those things that are desires. But we can program those desires into the likeness of things that are going to be mutually beneficial. Like when we make children, hopefully. You know? And those children can also be thoughts to evaluate what we conceptualize and what we put into our minds, what we put into our sphere, what we cultivate, what we nurture, what we put into our earth space, our womb space is our sphere. We have these different spheres around our body, and the same way that the earth has spheres around itself. And this middle space, the mid-world, is a processor. What? It's processing things. Finite. To make up your mind, to make a decision in that space of, and then we spark off and go to the left or go to the right and make a decision. This is the place where our Creator gave us that is free will. Yeah. The part where we're supposed to be able to make up our own mind on what we want to do that has been usurped by technology. By people who have put it into our minds to sound the alarm whenever you want to peek into things that they have already conceptualized and used to rule over other people who are unawares. And we get our food, our substance, the things that we put in our tube from our parents. That society that's supposed to nurture us, that it takes a village to raise a child theology is what our society is. And we're not really getting, although we thought we were, an opportunity to pick and choose what we want. So our popcorn and potato chips, you know, but we'd like some different things now. Thank you very much. We want some almonds, we want some dates and raisins, we want some apples. Yeah. We want some salad. We want to be valid. What? We want some greens. We want some magnesium. We want to magnetize. We want to get away from being polarized. By thoughts that are counterproductive. I'm just looking at this, right? Now remember, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole. And this was Wandering Wednesdays. And I was playing with my dictionary. And of course, you know, there's a map in a dictionary, but I just thought, you know, something I was thinking of. Oh, the globe. Yes, that flat, right? What? When it comes to quantum thinking, what is it? The greatest point, the shortest point between the shortest point in between two distances is what? I got excited. Oh my gosh. To fold the paper. To fold it. Right? And so when you look at globed and to globe, one of the definitions was to make the shortest point, right? That's what they do when they take the globe and it's not a flat map. It's not 3 sections of squares. That you can use those shapes that we've been studying with the triangle and the pentagon, all the shapes that are governing our lives. I remember they have to use the actual sciences and maths and stuff like that in order to triangulate. So, you know, sometimes to reverse engineer or to trace back why something isn't being used is to find out why it wasn't being used. You know what I'm saying? It's not being used because they want to use you in a particular way. And so they globed it. They took the shortest point and they curved it. They curved the lines. They didn't quite flatten it, but they curved it. And so in the middle you have a toroidal field. This 8, this Analemma that I've been meditating on, that I spin with, that we shake our hips with, that we hula hoop with. It's not a quite circle. There's a hole in it. There's a hole in the donut or the square. There's a point 0, and that's why checking out the footage and the topic of Mount Meru and the center of the earth stuff is worthy of exploration in your wandering. Okay? So, much love to you and yours, family. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole. And this was Wandering Wednesdays. Or is it Wandering Wednesdays? Yeah. It's Wandering Wednesdays. Much love to you and yours. Be well. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, check me out on YouTube and at Regina's Rabbit Hole. Press like, subscribe. I'm out.